Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, a good day to the rest of the world. Welcome back to Pageant Philippines live sessions. Yours truly, once again, Francois is your pageant correspondent. We are live simultaneously on our Facebook page and, of course, on our YouTube channel. We are also, oh, by the way, guys, if you are new to our YouTube channel, please do subscribe and click the bell notification and follow and like our Facebook page for more pageant updates. We are also on Instagram and TikTok, so please do follow us on all our social media platforms. All right, so if you have any questions later, please don't hesitate to drop your questions down below at the comment section. We will definitely ask your questions directly to our guest for tonight. And I believe that you are all excited to meet our hmm, guest for tonight. All right, so our esteemed guest for tonight is a Miss Earth 2021 candidate from the Americas. So please do help you welcome our guest with a virtual applause. Give it up for Marisa Page Butler, representing the USA.
Hello,
Yes,
everyone. Thank you so much for having me on your show today. I'm so excited to get to know your fans and for you to get to know a little bit more about me and my advocacies.
you know what, Marisa, we are very much honored to have you and very much grateful to have you for gracing our live sessions for tonight. And thank you so much for that. All right, so
Of course.
guys, once again, if you have any questions for Marisa later, so please don't hesitate to drop your questions down below. But before that, let's get to know more about Marisa. All right. So, are you ready, Marisa?
I am.
We are very much excited for your guesting actually. So, oh, we have someone here asking for a shout out.
Oh,
Um,
hello, Ben. Thank you for watching.
and of course, we have Chin
Good.
Elian. Hi. Thank you
Oh,
for
all the
watching, guys.
hearts.
Mhm. If you have questions, guys, please drop your questions down below right away. All right. Oh, we also have Alfreda Stavilla. He's asking for a shout out.
Hi, Alfredo. Nice to meet you.
All right, there you go. So, Marisa, for us, we already know, well, not that much about you. So, yeah, but we also have some viewers in here that don't really know much about you as well. So, can you just tell us more about yourself? Something interesting facts that you know, um, something that you could only share to us.
Of course. So, for those of you who don't know me, I am a financial advisor living in San Diego, California. I focus on ESG investing, which is environmental social governance. So, I definitely take my day to day life as an Earth Queen to heart, even through my work. For my advocacy, it started when I was just a little girl here in this house in Maine, rehabilitating sick and injured animals with my mother. I then moved on to college where I started tagging sharks for NOAA's cooperative shark tagging program, which is the longest running shark study in the world. And now I lead a nonprofit organization called We Clean Trails that has removed over 10,000 pounds of litter from my local community in the past 2 years. So that's kind of a little snippet of the things that I do. But as far as the fun fact, one thing that is probably very unique about me, I don't think any other contestant at Miss Earth has ever been able to say this, is I was struck by lightning when I was in the 6th grade. So that I think that it lets me have a little more confidence that lightning can strike twice with a back-to-back win for Miss Earth.
Wow, you know what? How was that? Yeah, I was just actually in, I was just caught by that struck that had happened to you, that accident that had happened to you. How was it? How did it happen?
So I was doing everything your mom typically tells you not to do during a thunderstorm. I always loved listening to thunderstorms. I always found it very therapeutic. So anytime there was a lightning storm, I would open my windows and I would sit by there and watch it and listen. But I happened to also be on the computer and I was on the phone and wearing big metal earrings, kind of like this.
Oh,
And in through the window, it hit my house, and a part of it jumped off of the initial strike in went through the window and into my earring. It went out through my arm into the computer. The computer blew up, and I was unconscious at that point. So my sister said that we were just checking vital signs. We brought me to the hospital just to make sure that I was okay, because I guess there's two ways you can really be seriously injured from a lightning strike. The first would be a heart attack when you were initially struck. Thankfully, it went through the right side of my body, not the left. And then the second way is actually your organs can overheat from the electricity that has gone through you. So they were keeping me cool for a little bit. I didn't have to stay in the hospital for long. I was really lucky I didn't have any long-term effects, especially since it was more of a jump off the initial. It wasn't a direct hit. So I'm very thankful for that. But I think it gives me a fun anecdote going forward into my life. It's always perfect when you're playing the game, like Three Truths and a Lie. I always win that game because no one ever believes that I would be struck by lightning. So it gives me a really nice icebreaker for people now looking back on it, especially since I was okay from the situation.
oh, yeah. Well, that's actually good because you were the initial somehow, how shall I call it struck you initially, then it ended to you, right?
Yes.
Because it was really, if it ended to you, then definitely you'll die.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I was very fortunate that my house took the brunt of it. And just a little, they told me at the hospital, it's kind of like it comes down like a hand. And they said
Yeah.
I got a pinky. So that was really lucky for me that I didn't get the full direct hit. So I can be here with you guys today and be completely who I am and myself. So I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, very lucky my house took the brunt of it.
That must be a second life, if I may say.
Yes.
Mm-mm. Weren't you able to get somehow a superpower?
I always get asked that, and it's really funny. I always joke that it made me more intelligent because
Uh-huh.
up until that point, I wasn't doing as well in school, and then after
Really?
that, I really excelled in school. But I think it just was the timing of the fact that I also got glasses very shortly after that, and I could finally see the board. But I like to say it's just because I got struck by lightning when I was given super intelligence after that.
Actually, it actually shaken your brain.
Yes.
It given a lot of power to think more, right?
Yeah, supercharged.
You know what? It's just a fan. It's just like I don't know if it's just a fan fact because it's not a fact. It's just a kind of fiction here. It's a fiction movie here in the Philippines that we have that kind of a superhero. She was directly hit by the thunder.
Mhm.
And then she eventually gained a superpower like for electricity.
Oh, that would have been so cool. I'm jealous now.
And she was called Volta for volts. All right.
Oh, wonderful. I'll have to look that one up. That sounds interesting.
But it's just like a comedy, comedy fiction, movie, right? So, oh, nice question, bro. Yeah, we'll definitely ask your questions, guys. Hi, Linel. Yeah, there
Hi,
you
Mel.
go. I'm sure she had a chance to get the crown for the second time. Oh, by the way, before we proceed, we actually have a co-host. So
Okay.
let me just introduce to you my co-host. He's also a Q&A trainer back here in the Philippines. Okay, so please do welcome Dandy Janes Trera. All right, there you
Hi,
go.
good morning. Good
Hi, and
morning,
good evening to
Marisa.
you.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm getting a chance to see some family this last week before Miss
Mhm.
Earth being here in Maine. So, very happy to be able to be surrounded by loved ones right now.
Oh, that's
All
nice to hear. Nice to
Yes.
hear of you. Yeah, I'm sorry
right.
I came in late. I there's a technical issues with my machine, but I'm here. Yeah.
Well, we're happy to
That's
have you.
fine.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you. Yep. Okay,
All
so
right,
please
thank you.
make the I will
Okay,
be yeah, I will be around talking something also.
all
Wonderful.
right, good. So let's proceed. So Marisa, this is gonna be the second time for the USA. I know. I'm sorry for that. So Marisa, last year USA won Miss Earth, right? So
Yes.
do you find or do you feel any pressure for this edition, for this year's edition?
Well, I definitely think there is some pressure because in order to really get a back to back crown, you have to go above and beyond to show that you are, without a doubt, the right girl for the
Mhm.
job. So I really have taken that as a challenge to really showcase exactly who I am to the earth and why I believe I could be the best Miss Earth candidate possible. So I think it's almost given me, the motivation that is needed to really go above and beyond, because this
Mhm.
has been my dream since I was a younger girl, to be able to represent not only my country, but the earth, and to represent Mother Earth and to protect all of the plants and
Mhm.
animals that are here. That has been such a core part of who I am as a person since I was just a very young girl, long before even pageants came into the picture. So I think
Mhm.
that it would really be a continuation of all the work that I've been doing since I was a young girl and to continue to do as Miss Earth. I think that the most important aspects that you can have as a Miss Earth is to have love, empathy, respect, and accountability. And I practice those every single day within my volunteerism for Mother Earth. So I really hope to not only share what I've been doing, but instill those values in others through meaningful experiences within nature. So I think it's really given me a roadmap and a vision to really stick to be able to showcase the best version of myself possible because of this extra pressure of going above and beyond to be able to have that back-to-back crown, because it's no
Mhm.
easy feat. But I think that is
Exactly.
something that we can definitely do because I have such a wonderful team behind me, so many great people who are supporting me. I have never felt more of an outpour of love and support from not just my countrymen, but from all people around the world. So I think that this will be, that's where most of my motivation comes from. So I want to make all the people who are believing in me proud. So that is where most of my motivation comes from, is one, wanting to be able to show I do deserve to be able to do this, and to be able to really show how much work I'm putting in and to make my fans and supporters proud.
Oh,
Wow,
what else should I
well
ask?
said. Yeah, well said, well said.
What else
Yeah,
should we
I'm sure.
ask, Marisa?
Oh.
Yeah,
All right. By the
very
way,
well.
Marisa,
Mhm.
you mentioned Marisa a while ago that long before Miss Earth, you've already been working for your advocacy. So can you just tell us more? How did Miss Earth came into you? So or at least how did pageantry attract you to be part
Mhm.
of such?
Yes. Well, I actually didn't know much about pageants till I was in high school. So I started pageants when I was 17 years old. So that was about 10 years ago. Actually, 10 years ago today, I think one of my first pageants was in early November in 2011. So it's been exactly 10 years now that I've been participating in pageants. But in the US, I started off within a few different systems, just the smaller systems to be able to get my feet wet and learn more about pageantry. I initially came into pageantry to be able to help pay for my college education. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities in the United States for young women who are going to college who are participating in pageants. And I was actually able to pay for a good portion of my schooling where I went to school for economics through my pageant experience. But it was after being involved in the world where you truly see more of the different systems and learn more about what ones suit you best. And I realized very quickly on that Miss Earth was going to be the best fit for me personally, just because I've always had that environmental advocacy. However, I didn't want to go too soon. I had made the mistake of going too soon to certain pageants before and really not being ready. You have to know exactly who you are, what you stand
Mhm.
for, and then how to use that voice to make real change before you can represent something bigger than yourself. So I had a lot of growing up to do. I had a lot of learning about myself and how I wanted to use the microphone of being a title holder if given the chance. So I worked very hard for the past 10 years to be able to be ready for this moment, to be in the right system, in the right time, as the right version of myself. So that's kind of why I left Miss Earth for my last pageant that I'll ever be doing, because I wanted to go out on a system that truly represented who I was as a person most. I love the environmental component of Miss Earth. As I told you a little bit earlier about my environmental background, you can see that has been a huge cornerstone of who I am as a person since a young girl. So I think that for me, I was an environmentalist first, and then I became a pageant lady later on to be able to take what I've been doing in my local community to a bigger level, to have a bigger microphone, and to make more change in this beautiful world that we as a collective call home.
Wow, that's great.
Um,
Do you have
I
any
love it.
questions, Linda? Dandy, rather.
Yeah, I love it. Like bringing on the platform of Miss Earth to extend the advocacy,
Yes,
something
that's
something
right.
like that. Unlike those girls, unlike some girls are having their advocacy within the platform, but for Marissa, I really appreciated the way when she mentioned that she's bringing in her advocacy and using the platform of Miss Earth or any pageant that she had been doing in order to continue
Yes.
that advocacy. I salute you that.
Thank
So
you.
okay, so my question, I have one question for
Yes.
this, no. Looking at your preparations in Miss Earth, it seems to me that you have prepared already. Um, of course, psychologically, when I look at you and you talk about your advocacy, you talk about your preparation for the past 10 years, like, but how this pandemic, no, and how this pandemic steer you and prepares you in this um let's say it's a virtual pageant.
Yes.
You look at
So
it, yeah.
I've actually had the opportunity to compete virtually before the pandemic. And that's actually how I won Miss World America back in 2018. It was a virtual pageant for a national. So I have a little bit of experience with the virtual pageant going into this, which I think has been very beneficial for me. But as far as the pandemic specifically, I think that one of the most silver linings of this entire pandemic is situations like what we're doing right now. We're having a conversation across the world with people
Mhm.
in different cultures and backgrounds and extending that microphone and conversation about Mother Earth on a much larger scale. And I feel as if in the past few years, because we've been virtual, there's been so many more interviews, there's been so many more conversations, and I feel that it's actually making our queens more accessible. And
Mhm.
I think that it really is going to help only strengthen our voice because we're able to reach more people. So that's one of the things I've really been utilizing throughout my reign is doing online interviews and talks with different organizations and one of the things I did in my local community has actually been to start my own nonprofit organization. So We Clean Trails really came from when the pandemic happened. So many more people were getting outside for the activities and just to socialize with people than ever before because it was the most safe way to do so. But with that comes a lot of people who didn't know leave no trace principles, who were leaving trash on, different trails and public parks and beaches. And there was a huge uptick in litter in my community. So I thought, what is one thing that I can be doing right now that could be making a huge difference? And so I started my nonprofit cleanup organization that meets every Saturday to clean up trash in different environmentally locations within my community. And it's so important in San Diego because we're home to more endangered plants and animals than anywhere else in the US. So that's one of the big things that I started during the pandemic and was actually inspired by the pandemic to start my nonprofit and make that real difference. And as I said, we've been able to remove 10,000 pounds of trash since we started, which I think is absolutely amazing. I'm just so humbled that I have such great volunteers that come every single weekend have been helping me with this project. And one of the great things about the pageant being virtual is I can continue that work right now. In fact, we have a cleanup going on this weekend. I'm going to be hosting a cleanup myself on the coronation day of Miss Earth. And what other Miss Earth can say that they volunteered in their community on the same day of their coronation night? So I'm really hoping that that will really show that the work doesn't stop. So there's a lot of benefits for, it being virtual because of the pandemic. I know there's been a lot of people who've been sick and ill, and my heart goes out to them. My prayers goes to all the countries that are struggling still, and my countrymen as well. But there are few silver linings if you can look for them closely.
All right. So,
Yeah,
right
thank
before we proceed
you.
to a deeper or to somehow to an in-depth interview or in deeper questions, let's just take some break. Through our this first challenge, which we call "Have You Ever Had?" All right,
Okay.
would that be fine with you?
Yes.
All right. So, when you're ready, Marisa, are you ready?
I am.
Good. So let's start off with: have you ever had gotten in trouble at school or at church?
I only got in trouble in school once, and it's actually a really embarrassing story. I was actually a very good student in school. Like I said, after I got struck by lightning, I very much excelled at school. And we were playing a trivia game in one of my science classes when I was in seventh grade. And my team was winning, but I was being very rambunctious with my friend Gloria. We were laughing and giggling, talking a little bit out of turn, and my teacher got so annoyed with us because we were winning, but we were being disruptive. And he said, if you guys have one more sound come out of that group, I'm going to take away all of your points and give you lunch detention. And the most mortifying moment of my life ever occurred in that moment because I farted and he gave me a detention. And I didn't mean to. It just happened because I was nervous and it was just the most ill-timed thing ever in my life because the whole class was completely silent. But the one saving grace is all the people in my class thought I faked it and did it on purpose just to be, a brat to the teacher. So no one thought I actually did, but that was the most embarrassing moment of my life and the only time I've ever gotten a detention in school ever. So now you know my
What's
most
your
embarrassing moments of my life.
I was actually supposed to ask the most embarrassing moment of your life or the most embarrassing moment that ever had happened to you.
So we covered that in two
Yeah,
questions and one answer.
that's right. Yes. Do you have any questions or have you ever had questions, Dandy?
No, no, no. I
All
will
right. So
receive
let's
my next question.
okay. Let's continue then. How about this one? Have you ever had paid for a stranger's meal or drink without them knowing it was you?
I've done that quite a few times. I
Uh-huh.
definitely believe in paying it forward. If
Uh-huh.
I notice someone, it might be like having a bad day, maybe in the line behind me, I just tell we're going through a drive-through. I just say I'm going to cover them as well. And one of the things I've also done before is if someone had been rude to me, say they were honking their horn behind me, I've sometimes paid for their drink as well to be able to make them kind of think maybe I was being a little bit, too rude. Maybe I need to reevaluate this person just did something nice for me. So I think that one of the big lessons we can learn is that even if someone's might be being rude to you, you could teach them a wonderful lesson through kindness. So that
Exactly.
is one thing that I always have tried to do. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know if they feel guilty or if they end up feeling, like how it makes them
Yeah,
feel.
yeah.
But I'm hoping what it is it'll be a recognition that there was a nice person in front of me that I wasn't treating well, and maybe I will think about treating someone that way in the future.
That's
So that's
right.
kind of the goal I have when doing that.
Wow, that's so
Mm.
great. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How about this one? Oh, by the way, let me just ask first. Do you have trees or well at your backyard or anywhere else at the surroundings of you? All right,
Yes, I have a lot of trees here in Maine. I don't have very many in San Diego, but where I'm at right now, there's a ton of
because
trees.
you're
And
on an
actually,
apartment, right, in San
yeah,
Yeah.
Diego.
I live in the city, and San Diego doesn't have as many trees. We have palm trees, but they're technically grass. They're not actually trees. Fun
That's
fact.
right. Mm-hmm.
But there's not as many trees in San Diego. Here, though, in Maine, we are actually the most forested state in the United States. So we have the most forest coverage. So there's plenty of
Oh,
trees all around me right now.
all right. So let me just ask this then:
Yes,
have you ever had climbed a tree or went up on a roof and couldn't get down?
I have actually. So I have a funny story on this one. I was climbing one Halloween, so this is actually kind of funny that it's the timing of this because Halloween just happened. But one Halloween, I was dressed up as Wonder Woman, and
Oh,
a Spider-Man came by and challenged me to a tree climbing race, and I beat him. I went up much faster, got to the top that we said we're going to go to that branch. And I got there, but on the way back down, because I was wearing high heels while doing this, it got lodged into one of the tree trunks. So I got wedged in and my foot was stuck. And so Spider-Man had to go up the tree again and rescue me. So I don't know who actually won that interaction because he actually got to be the superhero, but I did climb the tree faster than he did.
that's so sweet of him, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
How old were you then?
I was actually in college. It was my first year in college, first Halloween celebrating there. I didn't even know who this man was. I don't know who Super Spider-Man was because he had the mask on, and I've never found out who it was that rescued me. So he really was a superhero to me in that moment.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's really funny, huh? Hmm. How about this one? Have you ever had lied to get something cheaper than it was?
No, I don't believe so. Yeah, I really believe in honesty. And I also believe in paying people for the value of their work. And if I have the means to do so, I wouldn't want to necessarily haggle because people put a lot of work and effort into creating their products. I mean, I was grown up as the daughter of a business owner, so I know the value and work that people put in behind the scenes to create their products. So I wouldn't want to try to cheat someone out of their hard-earned money simply because I might want to save a few pennies on something. So no, I don't really haggle or anything like that myself.
Good. Hmm. Have you ever had kept pictures of you because you felt awkward when looking at it?
So kept pictures of me myself because they
Yeah.
were like funny and silly.
Yeah. Huh?
Probably. Yeah, I definitely have a few of silly ones with me and my dog Milo that I've kept, and I don't necessarily always post them. There are some parts of like my life I like to keep private and to myself, and some of those like fun moments with my dog I do keep to myself because we are doing something silly or so I think there probably is a few that would fall under that category, but I can't think of a specific example to share with you. Mhm.
That's right. That's good. That's definitely respected.
Yes.
Okay. How about this one? Have you ever had told someone their zipper was down or their shirt was popping open?
Their what was down? Zipper was down?
Uh huh.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I would definitely let someone know. Usually it's a friend or a family member. I don't think I would ever have the courage to say that to a stranger.
Hmm.
Because they're like, why are you looking there? But I would say, for my family members and my friends, you have to look out for them. I'd want someone to tell me if, my zipper was down or if I had lipstick on my teeth or, so I would want to have that repaid. So I definitely try to let people in my life know if there's something like that going on.
But you know what, Dandy here is good at telling someone. Is good at telling to a stranger when the zipper is down.
Oh
I
no,
don't know
not
if
that
I've
one.
noticed a stranger in that situation, but I don't know how I would react because I haven't come across that before myself.
All right, this must be the last one.
Okay.
Have you ever had copied an answer from your seatmate?
No, I've had a lot of them try to copy mine. Like I said, I was a nerd in high school and in college. So, I get over a 4.0 GPA. I'm taking all honors and AP classes. So, one of the things that I love to do, I love to study, I love to learn. So, for me, I was always trying to be like, don't look at my answers. Like, I did the work, you do the work. So it's more the opposite way for me that has happened rather than me trying to look at someone else's answer because usually mine would be more correct than theirs anyways.
But yeah, are you generous enough to let them copy from yours?
I don't really like cheating. I think that is not any help to you as a person. I think that if you do the hard work, the whole purpose of school is to be able to learn how to do work, how to study, how to remember things. And if you're
Yes.
cheating at that, yes, you might get a better grade, but what value have you learned? What are you taking
Exactly.
away other than a grade? And for me,
That's right.
school is so much more than just the grade. So I think that it actually is very detrimental for people to cheat on a
Mhm.
test or an exam.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't think anyone's really trying too hard. I mean, if you are kind of covering your answers, they're like, okay, I'll look somewhere else, you know. But yeah, I don't think that it would be generous to give them my answers. I think it'd be hurtful to them to give them my answers because then they're not truly learning the subject. And that
Yes.
once the grade is done, I mean, what are they going to have to show for it? So I don't think that it'd
Exactly.
be generous to show them if that makes
Yeah.
sense to you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Makes sense.
All right. Thank you so much for your honesty, Marisa.
Marisa.
And I really enjoy that. Have you ever had challenge with you for being, you're just on your toes, and I
Yeah.
just love it.
Very
All
conversational.
right. Mhm.
Well, thank you so
All
much.
right.
It was fun. It was questions I haven't gotten yet before, so that was a lot of fun.
That's great. All right, so you know what, Marisa, we already have a lot of questions
Okay.
on our comment section right now. So we better start off with Joey. All right, so it's a question coming from Joey Kismundo
Joey.
contacted. All right, given the evidence that concussions from playing football can cause brain damage, would you support legislation from outlaws full contract football in schools?
I think that we need to be taking a lot more safety precautions when it comes to football. So I believe he's just referring to American football rather than soccer. I've
That's
actually
right.
got more concussions as a cheerleader than I ever got as a goalie in soccer. So I think that there is a lot of different sports that you have the opportunity to have concussions. I think cheering is actually higher than football is within that type of scenario for concussions. But we really need making sure that we're teaching kids the proper rules. I think it's really great that we've started with the National Football League to be able to really hammer down on the head-to-head contact rules. You're seeing that being taken much more seriously in recent years. We need to make sure that, our kids who are young in middle school, there's no need for them to have full contact. I think in middle school, they can still be doing more of a touch football scenario. You don't need to be making these big collisions at that point when their brains are still developing. But I would say in high school age, their brains are a little bit more sturdy at that point. They are also able to consent to doing this and putting themselves at risk at that age. And they're more knowledgeable about what the risks and dangers are so they can best to help avoid it. So I think in youth sports, I absolutely agree that it shouldn't be full contact. But I think in high school and above, as long as they're teaching them the proper way to do things and being very strict on the rules about no head-to-head contact, then I think we can still continue to play the sport in the way it's meant to be played. But it really starts with teaching the importance of keeping yourself safe and healthy, and your fellow teammates and opponents safe and healthy as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Joey, for that question. All right. Good. Okay, so we have another question here. We have a question here coming from Colpier Belt. I don't know if it's Caliper Belt or Colper Belt. What's your
Copper
take
Bell.
on hashtag fashion diet? Love you,
Fashion
Queen.
diet. So I'm not sure if I know what he means by that, but for my interpretation of that would be, to maybe not continuously buy more things. And so, because the diet is about kind of restricting, and with
That's right.
fashion, I think that maybe it's restricting purchases and being a little bit more conscious of what you're actually doing as far as fashion. And I think that's very important. I myself, I mean, this isn't the first time I've worn this dress. I think it's very important that we reuse the products that we have. We buy quality products that are going to last a long time because it really minimizes our environmental impact. Fast
Mhm.
fashion is one of the biggest contributors to our entire eco problem within the world, with climate change and waste management. So I think it's very important that we take honor in what we have, mend what we have, and pick items that are going to be long lasting and sustainable. Just as we would with our diet and our exercise, we don't want to do fast cuts or, cut corners just to get to an ends meet. We want something that's long term and sustainable and is going to be part of your lifestyle for the rest of your life.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. Yep. There's
Yeah,
another
actually,
question.
yeah, I
Yeah.
actually agree with her that fashion industry is one of the biggest contributor of carbon footprints, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, I agree with you when it comes to fashion diet. When it comes to this hashtag fashion diet, it is not really necessary for us to keep on getting clothes or keep on purchasing clothes without us wearing it them anyway every time, right? If we could repeat our clothes, right?
Yes, and there's
Yeah.
so much you can do as far as styling something differently, pairing it
Mm-hmm.
with different earrings or different hairstyles, and you really can give the same item new life multiple times. So I think that's
That's
so
right.
important to remember.
Mhm. All
Wow.
right.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Here's another question from our comment section.
Mhm.
Yep, I will read this one. The media has been scrutinized recently because of the spread of not so fact based news or information, or there is said that bias online reporting. Do you think media should be censored to uphold the validity and accuracy of news being reported? And why?
Well, as someone who has been a victim of fake news before in the past, I definitely see
Mhm.
the problems that can arise from it. When I was tagging sharks, even though I was working with the longest running shark study in the world, we were all 100% of the sharks that we tagged were safely released and survived. We were able to collect amazing data and actually limit the amount of fishing that could be done on at-risk shark populations. There was still pushback because one person saw one of the videos and photos of me tagging the shark and assumed it was some type of hunting that we were doing and killing the
Mhm.
sharks.
Mhm.
And so that one went a little viral, and people were like, oh, this girl is killing the sharks. She's so horrible. I was getting death threats. People were saying such horrible things to me. And it was based off of something that wasn't true whatsoever. So I see, the importance of having honesty and truth being represented within our media, because this is affecting real people's lives. Some people can't
Yeah.
handle that mental pressure of people blasting them online for something, especially if they didn't do anything wrong. So I think that it's so important that we have honesty within our reporting. But I will say I wouldn't want it completely removed. I would just rather it flagged as an incorrect statement, because I think it's important for us to know who is lying to us and who is being honest. If a publication is constantly lying to the public, I think the public has the right to know that. So I wouldn't want the articles to be taken down, but I would want them flagged as incorrect and misleading information so that we can make
Mhm.
decisions for ourselves as to who we want to get our news from in the future, and going to places that are more reliable and trustworthy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well said.
What else can we
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. We cannot just eliminate those we think that it's fake, but rather put it as misinformation.
Yes.
And
Yes, that's
flagging is
right.
very good. Yeah.
Mhm.
And in that way,
Oh,
we can show we can tell that this is the right media for me. This is the
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Or especially, politicians, public figures. I also don't
Yeah.
think that we should just remove what they say if it's wrong. I think we have the right
Yes.
to know that they're lying to us and then make our decisions from there.
that's
Hmm.
right.
Mhm.
That's correct.
Okay, so let's move on. Oh, by the way, thank you, Linnell, for that question.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Linnell.
Nail for your nail.
All right, so we have another question coming from Joey. So he's asking, are y- are the youth of this generation more pressured to perform than the youth of previous
Previous
generations?
generation.
I definitely do think so. When I was growing up, I had the freedom to be a kid. I had the freedom to go out and play in the creek out in front of my house and the woods behind it, and to go ride my bike and be in peace. There wasn't any of these eyes looking at me. But because of social media and kids getting involved in social media at such a younger age, they're not only, exposing themselves to judgment of people from a much younger age, but they're also seeing people as role models who are much older than them doing activities that they might not be ready for yet. So I
Mhm.
think that there is a lot of pressure that social media has on young people to perform and to be a different version of themselves. I have a neighbor child I think she's 8 or 9, and she's already conscious about her body. And that's
Mhm.
that's just a child that young should not be self-conscious about the way her body looks at that point. She should be enjoying running and playing with her friends. So I think that social media is, even though it's such an amazing, beautiful tool, I think it's something we should do only when we're older and have the mental capacity to handle that.
That's right. Yeah, I can notice that actually. That there are a lot of young generations now. There are a lot, even kids. They're already becoming very conscious of themselves.
Mhm.
Even though just through the pictures, they're very very conscious of how they look as well.
Yes, especially with filters. I mean, we're
Right.
practicing augmenting our face at such a young age now, and then that just highlights what you might not like about yourself, rather than letting yourself grow and then learning to love what makes you unique. We're trying to conform to this one look of a filter, and I think that's very harmful for young children, which is why when I have children, I probably won't let them have technology until they're much older, maybe middle school or high school, before they're able to have any type of social media. Because I think kids should be kids and they should allow to them to play outside and not have to worry about the pressures of adulthood at that early of an age.
All right.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for that once again.
Yeah.
Go
From
ahead, Dandy. Mhm.
yeah. So I have one question from a friend of mine.
Okay.
She I'll look at for it. She PM'd me, no private message. Yeah. So I'll read this one. Aside from the preparation for this Miss Earth um 2021, what other activities do you have? Like personal activities, like discipline whatsoever.
Yes. So one of the things I really love is to hike in my local community in San Diego. That's actually one of the reasons why I started We Clean Trails. Was I was going on hikes with my dog and noticed more litter on
Mm-hmm.
our trails than
Mm-hmm.
ever before. I also am a crazy dog mom. My dog Milo is my complete life and world. We spend every single weekend on Sundays going to the dog beach, which is his favorite thing in the world to do. He's probably the dog that's had the most fun at the beach that I've ever seen in my life. So that's a huge part of our weekend routine. And like I said before, I am a financial advisor by day. So that's my day job. So I work a regular 9 to 5 while running my nonprofit, while competing for the pageant, and while doing all of these interviews. So it might keep my schedule very, very busy. And then one of my favorite things, I was always an athlete all the way through from elementary school through college. I played 3 sports in college. So being athletic has always been a huge part of who I am. And so now I work out probably, 3 to 4 times a week, lifting heavy weights. I love being a strong woman. I think that's so important to be able to feel empowered as a woman in
Mm-hmm.
today's age, is to be able to be strong. So those are some of the hobbies that I have outside of pageantry. But I will say that most of my hobbies all lend itself for the pageant, because that truly, I feel as if Miss Earth really represents who I am as a whole, not just segmented parts of my
Mm-hmm.
personality. So I feel that every single part of my life that is important and precious to me is actually helping me along in this path to become Miss Earth. And I think that is when you know you're really in the right place at the right time with the right system, when you feel as if all your activities outside of pageants helps you within the pageant itself.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's
Mhm.
great. No, even if like it's not really for the pageant, but it's
Yeah, it's
basically
for
work
me,
for the
but
pageant.
at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it ends up actually helping me. Being athletic has been helping me in the
Mm-hmm.
sports round. I sing opera as well, and that I was able to
Wow.
do that for talent. And you don't get very many opportunities to perform opera as a young person in the U.S. So that was an amazing outlet for that. And then
Mhm.
I've always, like I said, I've always been an environmental advocate. So now that just is a very easy transition for me into my advocacy for Miss Earth with my nonprofit
Mm-hmm.
organization and all the environmental organizations I volunteer with in San Diego. So there's a lot that I'm doing, but I think it all goes to one big goal. And that's why I felt that Miss Earth was so right for me.
Perfect. Hmm.
Perfect.
Okay, so we have another question in here coming from Gerson Francisco. He's asking, beautiful Miss Earth USA. All right. So, can you say we could do? What can you say we could do now as we move towards accomplishing developmental goal despite pandemic?
Yes. So I think that we really need to be utilizing the tools that we have available to us. Like I said before, with utilizing social media in a healthy way, by utilizing these conversations that we're having, we're able to elicit real change and start the conversation. No change happens before a conversation is had. So I think that one of the things we can be focusing on is having conversations with important people. In my experience, I actually spent the pandemic volunteering with the San Diego Seal Society and trying to help advocate for the closure of the seal and sea lion beaches during their pupping season. So I actually performed a video tape of testimonials, also instances of harassment towards these animals, and citing different reasons why we needed to protect them during their seal and sea lion pupping season, especially since so many seals and sea lion pups were actually being killed on accident from spectators because they were getting too close and disturbing their natural environment. So I was actually able to take that effort and that extra time that I had to focus on this project, and then talk to my local representatives within my state and my city, and actually get a real change happening. So we can utilize different avenues during a pandemic to make our goals happen. And a lot of it can start by having a conversation. I had my conversation with my local government officials, and we were able to close those beaches during their seal and sea lion pupping season. So the power of your voice is so strong, even during a pandemic. And I just hope that everyone else can remember that and utilize their voice during this time.
Perfect. Whew. Thank you so much, Jerson Francisco, for that wonderful question as well. And yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. That we can do a lot when we just use the technology that we have right now properly. We could use it responsibly and accountably.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so do we have any other questions from your end? Yeah,
There's a comment in
there
the
are a
comment
lot of
section.
questions
Any
in
questions?
here.
There's a comment that says, "Crown her now."
Oh, hopefully we'll have less than 2 weeks to go. So hopefully, thank you
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
we
much
are
for your
hoping for
support.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. That will definitely happen. All
Yeah.
right, so we have a
There's one question. So I'm also interested with this one because
go ahead.
as a leader also in my company,
Hmm.
we are bound to this, but I cannot force people to do so. So
Mhm.
how would you convince people to get into vaccination for COVID-19 if they said they don't want it?
Yeah.
Shall I rephrase the question? If you are in favor of vaccination, how are you going to convince people of those telling that they don't like vaccination?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we need to first correct the misinformation. As we were talking earlier about, misinformation within news, media, and outlets,
Mhm.
we need to really focus in first why they believe that they shouldn't have the vaccination, what fears they might have surrounding that. Some of them can be valid, such as a severe allergic reaction to previous vaccines in the past. And that's something that you can respect and agree with going forward for them. But I think there's some that are out there that are just completely erroneous and need to be able to be squashed so they can really see the true value of having this vaccine. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people are worried about a microchip being put into them through the vaccine. At least that's how a lot of people in the United States are believing. But if you really use logic and think about it, if you have a cell phone, they already are tracking you. If they wanted to, they already could. So what would be the biggest worst possible outcome if they put a microchip in you now? For me, there's silly things that I think don't make a lot of sense for people for their reasoning and rationale. So I think the first step is finding out what it is and why that they don't want to get the vaccine, and then be able to refute that if it is not a valid reason with evidence and logic, and then try
Mhm.
to meet them in the middle with some compassion as well, because I do believe in bodily autonomy. I don't believe that anyone should have to do something to their body that they don't want to do. That's a huge right that we have here in the United States. But I think at the end of the day, we need to also be protecting everyone within our community. And it's so important to get that vaccine so we can end this pandemic faster and with less deaths. I've had so many clients and so many loved ones who've been affected by COVID vaccine. I have loved ones who are going through chemotherapy right now who can't get the vaccine and would love to. So there are so many people that would wish to be able to have it and can't. So we need to make sure anyone who can does get the
Mhm.
vaccine as soon as they are possible. And so I think that's really how you start. You have a conversation, find out why they don't want to do it, and try to convince them to come onto your side. I think by just telling them they're wrong will never work. You will never win an
Yeah.
argument by yelling at someone. You will only win an
Yes.
argument through compassion.
Yes.
So that's the approach we need to take for these people who are not wanting to get the vaccine yet.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Thank
Mhm.
you very much. That
So
question is
get
from Linnell
vaccinated.
Valenciano. Yeah. From
Oh,
Linnell
now.
Valenciano.
It was really, yeah, it was really funny when they were telling that before all this vaccination being spread out, right? That you know, don't get vaccinated because definitely you're right. If you get vaccinated, there'll be like a chip on you. Yeah, there'll be like a chip on you, and then you'll have no security, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I think like I said, even if that was real, that's kind of the conversation I have with people. Well, even if that was real, even if they have a chip in you, do they not
Mhm.
already have a chip on you at all times that they could tap into at any point? We all have cell phones. We have them. They have
That's
GPS
right. The
systems. There's these
GPS.
huge operating systems in our cell phones that we keep on our hand, almost as an extension of our bodies. So if you are really worried about that, you should get rid of your cell phone too.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good. That's
That's
correct.
that's really
Very
very
true.
smart. That's
Very
really very
true.
smart.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Marisa, there is a question in here. This is basically about what you have mentioned earlier. Since you mentioned a while back that you did tag shark, having said that, what do you think is a crucial role of sharks in marine ecosystem? Wow, this is nice.
Well, sharks actually play a huge role within regulating our ecosystems in our oceans. As the apex predator of the ocean, they actually keep in check other species of fish within our ocean. So there's not an overabundance of one type. And so it really keeps a balance within all of our ecosystems within the oceans. Another thing that they act as is a lot of people think of sharks, as these aggressors, these predators, but they also
That's right.
act as almost like the garbage disposal of
Mhm.
the ocean floors. They eat the sick fish, and they eat the dead carcasses that are in there as well, and they're keeping our oceans cleaner by doing that. So I think there's so many things that we can learn from sharks, and there's so many values that it has not only to their population but to all the other populations as well. And it's very important we keep a good balance. If we have too little sharks, there's going to be an overabundance of certain types of fish. There's going to throw out the balance. There's a delicate balance. That's why we have predators. That's why we have prey within the ecosystems of the oceans, so that there can be a symbiotic balance within
Mhm.
all of those different species. So that's why I advocated for protecting different shark species that are in the decline, such as the short fin Atlantic mako shark, which we actually were able to have place restrictions on their fishing in 2017 using some of the data that I collected myself. So that is why we're trying to protect sharks, is why we're trying to learn more about them. And then in addition to that, we're also trying to learn about what our effect is on sharks from not only our bycatch, but from our plastic pollution. When we were taking these blood samples, we even found microplastics in the blood of these animals. That's showing how pervasive this issue is of plastic pollution in our oceans when it's making its way into the bloodstream of these animals. So I think that there's so much we can learn from sharks, and they're so important to our overall balance within our ecosystem
Mhm.
and our oceans.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm, that's right.
Very true.
Okay, we have another question here coming from Joey. So, what is the moment in your life you would pick to change the lives of others? Hmm.
Hmm. So like a moment I think would be inspirational to others. Do you think that's what it means?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that one of the big things that I had learned, I had a family member who had suffered from a drug addiction in the past. And I think that that really taught me the importance of not judging a book by the cover. So that would be one thing that I'd want to share with the world is to not judge people too quickly. Oftentimes, people who have drug addiction issues are looked down upon as almost less than, as bad people, when really they're just sick and ill. There's this wonderful person underneath there that is just fighting to be able to get out. And so I think that when you really are confronted with something that completely shatters your belief system of, well, that doesn't make sense because my, loved one is not a junkie, they're not a bad person, they're just ill. And then it makes you have more empathy for other people in different situations. So you're not as quick to judge someone going forward once you've experienced something like that. So I think that it's very important just to note, not to judge people by the cover and to really find out their story, find out why before making any type of snap judgments. Because I think when we lead with empathy, we're going to make this world a better place.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
speaking the world, yeah,
Empathy.
you just mentioned to make the world a better place. Joey has actually a follow up question on that. How can you change the world to make it a better place?
Better place.
Yeah. So actually, that is really the cornerstone of my
Mhm.
advocacy, the collective earth. So I think that the way that we can really make a huge impact is by sharing the four vital values that I believe help make a better earth. That'd be love, empathy, respect, and accountability. So I think by practicing these in your day-to-day life, by sharing these and inspiring others to be practicing these values, we can truly make this world a better place, because we
Mhm.
cannot make something better if we don't love it, if we don't have
That's right.
empathy, and if we don't respect it. But the most important is to have accountability. You can feel all those emotions towards something, but unless you have accountability to make a change and to take action, then nothing will actually happen. So I think you need those first three to care about the subject matter. But the last one, accountability, is really where you make the real systematic change that's going to be long lasting.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's Lera. I wrote it here, Lera. It's love, empathy, respect, and accountability.
Yes.
Wow.
I have my
and
notes.
mhm. And Gerson has another question in here. What skills you think will be most needed and helpful that you want the children of today's learned from you?
Yes. Well, I think that it does go back to, the love, empathy, respect, and accountability. That's definitely
Mhm.
very important, as I said before. But something new that I'd love to add in is I just want children to be curious. I think it's so important for them to want to experience and to gain knowledge about the world around them. Because for kids, education really is the first step to be able to know about different things and to want to learn. So I think that by staying curious and also by staying open minded, I think it's so important. Like we were talking earlier, people have different opinions about things all the time. And the only
Yeah.
way we're really going to be able to bridge that gap is if we can understand their perspective. And the only way we can do that is by keeping an open mind and being curious and listening to what it is they have to say. Because I don't think any one person, is wrong in any situation. There's different parts of their argument that is always going to be valid from their point of
Mhm.
view. So you need to understand what their point of view is, why they hold the beliefs they have. That way you can have a better chance of mediating between your two conflicting thoughts and coming to a nice middle ground. So keeping an open mind, keeping it curious, and then practicing love, empathy, respect, and accountability, I think is something that I would love to instill in children of today.
All right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good. So, do we still have more questions right here? I think there's another question that I wasn't able to ask yet. Hmm. Here we go. From Joey again. What are your thoughts on global warming and how will you do your bit to mitigate global warming?
Well, I think that this really boils down to cause and effect. I think that we
Mhm.
need to recognize that we have a part in the cause of climate change. And I think that is something really important to note, that a lot of people don't believe that
Mhm.
human activities are contributing to climate change, even though there is science and data to back up that fact. So I think that the first thing we need to do is to educate people about the scientific facts behind climate change, how human interaction is actually contributing to this. And such things is so important that we take accountability, like I said, of our actions to be able to see what we are doing to this beautiful earth. And so I think that one of the things that we can do to mitigate that is first understanding that we have a role to play in the overarching cause of climate change.
Mhm.
And then we need to take accountability and change our actions. So one of the things that I've been doing is I actually cut out all red meat from my diet. If you cut out red meat, or even if you cut out just even it by a fourth of your consumption, we can save so much carbon emissions into our planet every single year. So that's something I definitely advocate for. During first part of my reign, I'd be putting up meatless Monday recipes to encourage my followers to at least try a vegetarian meal once a week, so we can
Mhm.
start moving away from our dependence on these more environmentally damaging foods. But it's also very simple about just taking into account what what Mother Earth in your decision making processes in your day to day life. So if you're using something that is wasteful, it is something that is disposable, think about, is there a better alternative to this? How can I make this product that I'm using something more sustainable long term? I switched out paper towels for these reusable rags that we wash in
Mhm.
between uses in my kitchen. So it's these small changes. If you're just always keeping Mother Earth in mind when you're making your decisions, and that she's a stakeholder in your decisions, then I think that will really get us on a better track. And it really can start with all these small steps that individuals are taking. But again, I think we need to be advocating for longer systematic change by talking to our government officials and showing them how important this is to us, and really advocating for our voices to be heard, not only on an individual level, but on a national and international level as well.
Oh, you
Mhm.
mentioned earlier about like cutting your your proteins. I mean your meat, your red meat, right?
Yes. Mhm.
So are you? Let me just ask first. Are you a vegetarian right now, or just cutting off
Mhm.
your red meat?
So I was vegetarian for a very long time. However, my health wasn't really reacting well to a vegetarian diet. So through the guidance of my doctor, he actually suggested I do add back in a few meat products throughout the week. It's something I wish I didn't have to do, but I always want to remind people that we do what we can with the hand that we are dealt. And so if you can make a difference within what types of meat you're eating, if you have to eat meat, you can
Mhm.
choose meats that have lower carbon footprints and a lower effect on our environment. So something like chicken and fish have a much lower carbon footprint than something like beef or lamb or pork. So by making sure that we're making the best decisions within the parameters that we can, then we can make a real big difference. And I think that's important because not everyone can afford a vegetarian lifestyle. Not everyone has access to a vegetarian lifestyle, but we can make small decisions that are the best outcome for the hand that we are dealt in any scenario that we find ourselves in. And so that, I think, it actually is more impactful of a message than just saying, no, you have to do it a certain way, because people's lives, everyone has a variety of what they have available to them, what is works for them, what is it they can even do for their health. So I think that it's important to note that there is a variety of what can be done, but we can make the best decision with the hand that we are dealt, and to always
Mhm.
strive for that is so important.
Hmm. And you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, you mentioned as well that by cutting food, by cutting red meat, it could also help us to somehow prevent carbon footprints.
Yes.
Now there are these just like vegetarians or like doing this vegetarian diets that they are actually opting or somehow doing getting the alternatives of eating this kind of processed proteins like processed meat.
Hmm.
I don't know if you ever had encounter that. So they're like just meat, but they are being processed to to taste like a meat. So for sure there are also carbon footprints in here. What can you say about this?
Yes. I actually don't really like the imitation meats personally. I
Mhm.
think that I would much rather have something still taste like, I don't like foods that pretend to be other foods. If that's just my personal preference. But also, when you're eating something that's so highly processed, there's chemicals in it. The packaging of it is also detrimental. What I would suggest instead is, what I do is I actually make most of my food from scratch. That way, you're buying whole food products. You can buy it locally, you can buy it organic whenever you can. And then by making those foods from scratch, you know exactly what's going into it. There's not all these extra additives. You're actually going to be much healthier because you have a better control of what's going into your body. You have a better
Mhm.
knowledge. I always looked at the back of when you look at the calorie intakes and everything, if I see something I don't know how to pronounce, I don't want to eat it. If I can't pronounce the word, if it's some chemical compound, because if I don't know exactly what I'm putting in my body, then I don't know how I'm going to react to it. I don't know where it
Mhm.
came from, and I don't know its environmental impact or its impact on my health. So I try
Yes.
anytime I possibly can. I don't buy packaged food. I don't buy processed food. I buy fresh food and make it every single day. And I know not everyone has the ability to do that. I'm very lucky that I work from home and have the ability to make all my meals fresh every day from scratch. But whenever you have the opportunity, I would highly suggest that, because not only are you able to really limit your impact on the environment that way, but
That's
you're
right.
also able to keep your health in mind and truly know what's going into your body. So I think
Perfect.
it's both a mind, body, spirit, and environmental thing to be able to make your meals from scratch. Because I don't know, I think a home cooked meal is always better than what I get in a box, anyways.
Exactly.
It's always been.
Yeah, it has always been that home cooked or homemade food are always the best than
Yeah,
what we are actually getting
Mhm.
from the supermarkets
yeah.
that are being
Processed
packaged
foods.
or
Yeah.
processed foods. Yeah. All right, so we have a question here from Novlin Suerte. The US is ranked second in carbon footprint. So, what ways do you think can lessen the carbon footprint? And kindly share practices that your country is doing to mitigate it.
Yes. So, like I said before, the U.S. We have a lot of work to do. I
Mhm.
believe I talked about this during our eco intelligence round about even though we have been making pledges to really combat our climate change in the United States under our new leadership, I still think we have a long ways to go. I think one of the first things we need to also do is realize again what's our accountability in this. We are one of the leading nations of the world, but we're also leading in carbon footprint. And that for me doesn't signify a leader. A leader is someone who leads our world into a better future. And if we're not contributing to that, I don't think that we have the right to call ourselves world leaders. So I think we really need to reevaluate what we are doing in our day to day life. I think the number one reason why we have such a high carbon footprint is because the United States is the most individualistic country ranked by culture worldwide. And I think that that really goes into show that we're not taking into account other people within our decision making processes. We're not taking into account Mother Earth in our decision making processes. It's only our small, individual person or immediate family that we're considering when we're making choices. And so I think the first thing we can do to mitigate that is actually to teach empathy, to teach more collectivism. That's why my advocacy is the collective Earth, because I saw the issue within my country of us being so highly individualistic and the negative effects that has
Mhm.
on our climate. So we need to move more towards collectivism and to be keeping in mind our fellow humans, our animals, and plants in mind when we're making our decisions. Some of the small ways that we can do to combat that is by making better choices in our day to day life, keeping those other people in mind. Like I said, you can change out small things in your kitchen to be more sustainable. You can cook on the top shelf of your oven instead of on the bottom so it cooks faster and uses less energy. You can get a more fuel efficient car if you have the ability to do so, or walk or bike to work if you're within that type of a commute range. So there's a lot of things you can be doing to really make a huge impact on what your carbon footprint is. But the first thing comes just taking the accountability for our part in it, and to be able to make sure that we're taking into account other people and the effect our decisions have on them when making any decision throughout our day.
All right. So, whew.
I am overwhelmed already.
Yeah, I'm really
Overwhelmed.
overwhelmed as well. I'm
Overwhelmed.
really overwhelmed of your answers, and sometimes I'm just left speechless.
I hope it's been speechless.
All right, so we have here a question coming from one of our friends and one of our correspondents actually, and his name is Rhapsodic Ricky. So here's his question: do Miss Earth queens, the past and current, sustain each other's environmental advocacy projects? How?
Well, I can speak a lot to how we're doing it in the United States. So, one of the reasons why I started We Clean Trails was one of our former Miss Earth USA queens came up with the concept Think Global, Act Local as a hashtag for Miss Earth USA. And so that was, we actually keep that in with our system now. Every single June, we're asked all of our delegates, our state delegates, to come up with a Think Global, Act Local project to be able to highlight and showcase the work we're doing locally to make a global impact. And so it came from that thought process of a former queen that inspired me to start We Clean Trails through my Think Global, Act Local project. So I think that we really are sustaining each other's projects long term when we keep in mind that we're not only continuing the work that they had done, but we're
Yeah.
inspiring new work in the future as well. Even if it's not done in the exact same way, the inspiration comes from our predecessors. And so I think it's really important to not only know what it is you're here to stand for, but to have a knowledge of the queens that comes before you, because it truly is their legacy that you're carrying on as the next title holder. And I hope that if I get the chance to be Miss Earth, that the legacy that I can leave is the queen who does the work, who gets out there in her community and truly rolls up her sleeves and does the dirty work to help our environment. So I hope that continues to inspire other queens going forward, not only within the United States, but within the entire earth. So that is the legacy I hope to leave. And I hope that doesn't just go away once I'm done with my title. I hope that lives on in future queens as well.
Yeah. It's a continuation of what you're been doing, what your advocacy is all about. That's really a queenly attitude. No, I really look at it in the context of queenly attitudes.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
The advocacy does not end when you are crowned, but it continues at the end of your life.
Exactly. And for me, I know that this was something that was a huge part of my life since I was a young girl. And We Clean Trails isn't going anywhere. I'm going to be continuing to do environmental work.
Mhm.
Whether or not I am crowned Miss Earth, this is who I am. So this is the legacy I'm going to be trying to leave no matter what, and continue to inspire other future queens to also get out there and do the work and really make a difference in your local communities, because that's where everything starts.
Yeah, that's Marisa's brand and identity. No, I look at it as life. Marisa's brand
Alright.
and identity. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
quite good. No?
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Marisa, for that wonderful
And of
answer.
course, thank you, Rapsodic Ricky, for that question. We actually have another question from Rapsodic Ricky here.
Okay.
Okay, so he's asking, um, are you partnership with or are you partnered with environment-driven organization to elevate your advocacies? Tell us about it.
Yes, I am partnered with so many environmentally friendly organizations. Garbo Grabber has been a huge one. The Clean Earth Project. They both have helped me out immensely with my We Clean Trails nonprofit organization by donating us not only equipment but also promoting our cleanup events. I just also partnered with Clean Trails, which is the largest cleanup group within the United States. They put
Wow.
on Earth Day and National Cleanup Day, World Cleanup Day. They're the ones behind that. So I actually just came on as an ambassador for them this year. I'm also working a lot with the San Diego Audubon Society to restore the nesting sites of the California least terns. Like I said earlier, I also volunteer with San Diego Seal Society to help give more protections to the seals and sea lions that
Mhm.
call La Jolla Point home, which is just about 20 minutes north of where I live. So there's a lot of organizations that I've been in partnership with, the Center for Wildlife in Maine, Surfrider in San Diego. So it really is about building a community, because when you're trying to make real change, it's one of the things I learned talking to my local government officials when I'm trying to get certain things to be
Mhm.
done is going in it alone, you're never going to have as strong of a voice. If you go in with a group of people who have multiple different organizations that have the same goal as you, it's much harder for them to ignore your voice. So my suggestion for any young queen out there who's trying to make a difference in her community is to create those relationships with like-minded organizations, because when you're trying to make real change, you're going to need their support and you're going to need that network of community. So I'm very happy to have all these amazing partnerships. I wish I got to share more of my environmental advocacy work with all these different ones like San Diego
Mhm.
Canyonlands, But unfortunately, my eco video was maxed at 2 minutes, and I just couldn't fit it all in.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I really look forward to being able to showcase all these amazing partnerships if I get the chance to be Miss Earth. I think one great thing we could be doing, especially still being in a pandemic year for Miss Earth, is to create a documentary series about different environmental organizations that Miss Earth works with, not only within her country, but when she travels to other countries as well. And so that would be a big goal I would want to have, is to showcase the beautiful work that we're doing on the ground for the environment through a beautiful documentary series.
Mm.
All right. Oh my God. You're really very much ready. Okay. This is gonna be the last question from Rhapsody Creaky. All right. So, how can ecotourism survive the challenges of the pandemic?
I think that's a really difficult question that world leaders are still trying to understand, not only ecotourism, but local businesses. I know a lot of people who've lost their jobs during the pandemic, who've lost their businesses. And so it's really hard to sustain something when it's being affected by our entire world. But I think that it's so important that we, again, try to get people to realize the importance of vaccinations, because as soon as we're able to get back to normal, we're going to be able to help rebuild these communities that have been seriously hurt by COVID, and to be encouraging people to travel again. I don't think it's smart to encourage people to travel until people are safe with the vaccine and safe in different countries that they're going to, and that the situation is handled. So I think that first we need to tackle the problem of the pandemic before we're trying to promote more tourism. I think that's why I have a lot of, faith and respect for Carousel for having the forethought to do the pageant
Mhm.
still virtually in this format, because we're not putting not only all the girls at risk or the local community at risk by hosting a pageant that would be promoting ecotourism during a time where we really need to be focusing on our health and healing this planet first.
Mhm.
So we can find different ways, like I said, through we're being able to do virtual formats. I know a lot of national parks in the US are now allowing virtual tours for classrooms and everything. So we can utilize our technology during this time and encourage everyone to get vaccinated so we can get back to a normal life and our new normal going forward after this pandemic.
Yeah,
Mhm.
of course. Yep. Okay. No more questions. I'll read. Okay, so yep, I have one more question.
Okay.
Oh, but it was asked already. This, how can ecotourism survive the challenges of the pandemic? I think
Yes.
it was asked already. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I have in my mind, like, I was not in the introduction, but I was informed that you have been into pageantry for a well, couple
10
of years
years.
already. Yeah, 10 years. Like, can you share us, like, how did you maintain your being beautiful inside and out?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me was to, really get to know who I was as a person. I think that true
Mhm,
beauty comes from a knowledge of who you are, and then being able to
mhm,
share the true version of yourself to the world. So I think that's why so many more fans are resonating with me during my run for Miss Earth, is because I'm finally in a system that is highlighting all the true parts of who I am. And that is, to me, what's beautiful when you're in a situation where you are representing yourself as the best version of yourself. That is true beauty. So I think that it also is about leading with kindness. So one of the things
mhm,
I think I really had to learn throughout pageantry was not to view the other girls as my competitors and to be jealous or
mhm,
have the negative
mhm,
energy towards them, but rather look at them as people who are inspirations, other women that I can learn from, and to really grow. So a lot of my personal growth within pageantry has come from my co-candidates, and by getting to know them, learning different tricks of the trade from them, and then also just creating these beautiful friendships, because we are in no better situation to network with people to make real change than other women who are having the same goals as us. So I think it's so important that we're not only, promoting the best version of ourselves, but lifting up all the other women within our class and our other contestants to be the
Mhm.
best versions of themselves as well. Because if I were to win Miss Earth, I'd want to win against the best version of every single one of these other girls, because as a whole, the Miss Earth brand will be stronger, and the voice that we are given as Miss Earth would be stronger if we have strong delegates who support one another across the world, because we have one common goal. We are a collective Earth, and we need to act as such even in a competition setting, because we have the same goal of protecting Mother Earth. So we should always be uplifting each other. And so I think that is true beauty. When you see someone who's not only representing who they are as the best version of themselves, but uplifting others to allow them to do the same. So that's what true beauty means to me. And I think that's how I've been able to sustain this for the past 10 years, is by learning those wonderful lessons of supporting other people and showcasing who you are as the best version of yourself.
Wow.
All right.
Another
Whew.
overwhelming answer. Supporting others in order to become beautiful. Uh,
All right. So I believe
nice.
this would be the last question to be asked, and this is coming from Noveline Suerte. So he's asking, what is your take on the Paris climate change withdrawal and the readmittance of the U.S.?
Well, I will say that I agree with Biden's sentiments, so that I'm sorry that we had removed from the Paris Agreement under the previous administration.
Renault.
Unfortunately, there was a lot of environmental protections that were rolled back during that time. And I think it's so important that the United States, especially since we are one of the biggest contributors to CO2 emissions worldwide, is not only in the conversation about climate change, but making true changes within our country to combat it. Because what we do here in the United States affects people worldwide because of how much of a percentage of the carbon footprint comes from us. One of the things I'd like to see going forward is more attention on reparations to other countries for our part in this overarching global warming issue. So even though we have doubled the amount that we usually give annually during the COP26, we still probably could double that again to truly represent the amount that we need to really be giving back to the world. Unfortunately, in the United States, our politics are so divisive, and it's very hard to get things pushed through. So even though I think we could double again, the likelihood of that getting approved would be so low. So I'm glad at least we are still making steps under the new administration to rectify the issues that we have created for the global community. But I also want to say we have so much more work to do, which is why I think having a Miss Earth in the United States would be so important, because we can make a huge impact. If we can change the hearts of the United States, we can change the course of this entire global warming issue because of how much of a role my country has to play in this. So I think it's so important we have people like Miss Earth in the United States having these conversations and changing the hearts of the American
Mm.
people.
Yeah, so we are really hoping that Miss Earth, one of the Miss Earth's edition soon, will be staged in the U.S. as well. So
Yes, I
we're
think that
looking
would be
forward
lovely.
into that. Yeah, of course, right? Oh, thank you so much for that. So
Thank you so
uh,
much,
I think
Marisa.
we have already talked much about your advocacy as well, because you keep on mentioning your advocacy throughout our interview, right, Marisa? Is there anything else that you wanted to tell us about your advocacy? If I may
One
ask.
thing I would love to just share is some exciting news about We Clean Trails. Last week, I was actually honored by the city of San Diego with their Park Ambassadorship Award for my work with We Clean Trails. So this is a wonderful recognition of the work that not only I and my volunteers are doing within our community, by our local government. So this was going to be able to open up doors for us to make more changes on the government level going forward into next year. So we have a lot of exciting things planned, including expanding We Clean Trails to have another chapter in a community north of San Diego in Riverside. So this really is a growing thing. And if anyone would like to participate in We Clean Trails virtually, please reach out and let me know. You can follow We Clean Trails on either Facebook or Instagram, and we can set up a virtual cleanup in your community as well. And I'd be more than happy to help put you in the contact with the right people for the equipment for those
Mhm.
types of organizations. And then as far as just, I wanted to say thank you to not only you both for having me on here today and letting me
Mhm.
share my advocacy with the world, but also to all the people who are watching as well. I think that one thing that really isn't said enough is thank you to our fans. You know, you are really why we are able to have the voice that we have and to be able to make the impact that we do. And I just have felt so much love and support from people all across the world during this competition. I just really want to say thank you for believing in me, and I hope to be able to make you all proud in the next few weeks. And I just want to say again, thank you to Linnell for always putting me in contact with all these amazing people to be able to share my story. It's been such a lovely ride having you along with me on my Miss Earth journey. So thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you. And thank you, Ralph. I just saw him pop up. He's on every single one of my interviews, one of my favorite fans that I ever had. So thank you so much. But again, thank you for this opportunity. And I just hope to be able to make everyone who believes in me proud in the next few weeks.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you
However,
also,
yeah, I can
Marisa.
see that you've already thanking everything, that you're already showing your gratitude to everyone. However, we're not yet finished,
Oh, okay.
Marisa. So because we actually have one last round in here. It's
Okay,
actually
wonderful.
it's actually a challenge for you. All right.
Okay.
So let me just pull this up. Okay, here we go. Oh, one moment. Okay, I think let me share it to you. Okay, there you go. hmm Okay, so I hope you can see it on your end.
Loading right now.
All
All
right, can you
right.
see it?
A bunch of gifts with different numbers. All right.
Yeah.
Those people just
Exactly.
keep being
All right.
there.
So,
We want to receive your gifts.
so all right. So we have actually mystery gifts in here, and each of these mystery gifts, there is a corresponding question. All right. So,
Okay.
oh, just a clue. Of the on what we have on the mystery gifts are actually were actually questions from the previous Miss Earth competition, Miss Earth coronations. All right, final questions. All
All
right,
right.
so
Good practice for next week.
that's right. Okay, so are you ready with this?
I am.
Okay, so you can just pick at least three. However, we'll do it one after the other. All right.
All right. Let's
Okay,
start
so
with number 3.
number three. What do we have in number three? All right. What is the biggest enemy or enemies of Mother Earth? So this question was asked to Miss Earth 2017, Karen Ibasco. All right.
I think the biggest enemy for Mother Earth is actually human ego. I believe that, especially if we're making decisions that's only affecting who we are, and rather than taking into account our impacts on other people and on Mother Earth, then we're never going to be able to win this fight for climate justice. So I think human ego is the biggest threat to Mother Earth.
Wow, that's only less than 30 seconds. All right, so let's move to the next mystery box.
All right, let's do number 2.
Number 2. All right, here we go. So, being a millennial, what do you think is the most pressing issue of your generation? So this was in 2014.
Perfect. So, as a millennial, I think the biggest issue pressing our generation is climate change. That's going to affect so many aspects of our life going forward if we do not take action now. So, we need to be taking accountability for our actions and making real changes to our daily lives to help protect Mother Earth because we rely on her for everything. So, we can't let her down when she needs us most.
All right, so there you go. Oh, yeah. I stand corrected. It was asked in 2018, which was answered by Hong Khan. All right. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for that. All right. Okay. Let's move on. Oh, this is gonna be your last pick.
Last pick.
Okay. Let's see. How about number 6?
Number 6. Mhm. All right, so here you go. If you would be elected Miss Earth 2021 and you were given a chance to speak to President Biden, what would you ask him regarding climate change? This was actually in 2016. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, that was a time when President Obama was the president, right?
Just
20,
ending.
yes.
Wait. Mhm. All right. So, if I was given a chance to talk to President Biden, I think the very first thing I would be asking him is why are we still practicing inhumane issues within climate change within our country? There is so much the United States can be doing to limiting our carbon footprint. And by drilling more and still using coal for our energy source, we are not making any major changes. The other thing I'd want to talk to him about is how is he going to bring our country together? We are so divided within our politics that it's almost impossible to get anything done. And when we need to make action now for climate change, we need to be having us work together as a united front. So how is he going to bridge the gap
Mhm.
between the left and the right so that we can come to a conclusion for climate change and making real systematic change that's going to last for generations?
All right, so there you
All
go.
right.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Well
Thank you
said.
so much.
Well
Yeah.
said.
So what else can we say, right? So I think she's very much ready for the coronation night.
Very
Thank you.
ready.
Hope
Mhm.
so.
All right. So thank you so much, Marisa, for this opportunity to have you and for taking time, for sharing your time with us and your thoughts as well, particularly. And of course, thank you to Linnell for, for channeling us to you. All right.
Yes. Thank you,
Yeah.
Linnell, so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
And
you also for having me here tonight.
all right, of course. Would there be anything else that you would like to say, Marisa, aside from what you have already mentioned earlier?
Yes, I guess it's just a continuation of that. I just want to say thank you again to everyone. Thank you to you both for having me here today. And if you want to help follow along my journey for Miss Earth, please follow the Miss Earth Facebook and Instagram account and YouTube channel to get updates on all of my amazing co-candidates. They're
Mm.
doing such great work in their communities, and I really want you all to get a chance to really see what it is that Miss Earth can do, even in a virtual format. We are making huge changes for the environment. And so if you want to follow me, you can also either add me on Facebook or follow me on Instagram at Marisa Page Butler or Miss Earth USA. And if you want to get involved with We Clean Trails, follow We Clean Trails on either Facebook or Instagram for a update on when our next cleanup will be. I just want to again say thank you for having me today. It was so much fun. I got asked such amazing questions that I actually haven't been asked before, so that was a lot of fun for me. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
All
You're
right. Once
welcome.
again, we are very much honored and grateful to have you tonight, Marisa. So we are hoping to have you once again very soon after the coronation, perhaps. All right. So looking forward to see you once again in here. All
Thank you so much.
right.
Salamat po and good evening to you all.
Yes. Good
Yeah.
morning to you. Right. Okay. Holly Lynch. Hi, Holly Lynch. I guess your mother was here a while back.
Yes, Deborah Butler.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much once again. Thank you so much, USA. To all our viewers, thank you so much for staying with us for more than 1 hour and 30 minutes. And of course, yeah, there you go, Libra.
Love you,
Thank you
Mom.
so much.
She's
Thank you so much,
upstairs.
Miss
She can hear
Butler.
me.
Thank you so much. All right. So thank you so much, Ralph, for that
Thank you,
compliment.
Ralph.
All right. And to all our viewers, please don't forget rather to subscribe and click the bell notification on our YouTube's channel so that you will get notified whenever we release new videos. And of course, please do follow and like our Facebook page as well, Pageant Mag Philippines. And we are also on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So please do follow us, Pageant Mag Philippines, across social media platforms. All right.
Mm.
Thank you so
Yep.
much once again, guys. And good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good day to everyone. We'll see you on our next episode. Bye.
Bye.